Hello, I'm Chris Williams. Welcome to my video blog. As you just saw, you can be my friend on Twitter, where I am Chris Alf W. Right, very briefly, two topics I want to talk about. First topic for the majority of you, anyway. Is there a center to the universe? Well, most astrophysicists say that there is not a center to the universe because the inflation theory shows that the universe is also expanding on itself away, not from a central point, but sort of constantly expanded. There can be no one central point where the universe originated from, according to most theorists. But bear this in mind. This is my key element of the argument. The universe is said to follow a filamentary structure where all the galaxies are apparently in structures that are heading off into an unlocatable position known as the Great Attractor. We're unlikely to ever find out where all these galaxies are heading off because it's outside the range of what we can observe, due to sensitivity of Earth-based equipment, space-based observational equipment, and also dust is also a key matter. So that means we'll never find out what the universe is expanding towards, and that's why we tend to be so obsessed with where we are expanding from. But bear this in mind. I think that these filamentary structures might have an element of curvature to them, and bear in mind that ellipses tend to be the most common orbits in definitely solar system and galactic astrophysics. It will not surprise me if these filamentary structures of galaxies tend to form some kind of elongated path where they might, for all we know, combine with other filaments, that sort of things. Bearing in mind general fluid mechanics, I would anticipate that the shape of the universe, looking at, if we were outside the universe, that's impossible because we can't be outside the universe, but if we were outside the universe looking in, I'm sure it'd be in the shape of an egg or rugby ball, whatever you prefer. And I imagine that the center of the universe is bound to be not in the middle of this rugby ball shape, but if you are familiar with the mathematics behind ellipses, I would say that it is sort of well, I'll actually illustrate with my next prop, actually, because I'm going to be talking about railways in a minute. But if this is the diameter of an ellipse, and if this here is the middle, I would say that the center of the ellipse, whereby I say that the center of the universe could well be, is somewhere in this region here, more likely in the middle, between the middle of the elliptical orbit and the extremity. But obviously we will never know. We would know if we're able to see through all the dust that is in the universe, but everyone's got a wide range of opinions on if there is a center of the universe or not. Do let me know what you think on the area below where this video is. Now, obviously I've shown you a model railway train in particular. I've shown you a First Great Western, and the reason why I'm showing you the First Great Western is because they have played a blinder with their economics, it seems, because the Great Western Railway route runs through, it doesn't run through my house, but it runs through Cardiff, where I am blogging from, and the franchise was supposed to be up for renewal, but it's now been the contest to determine who's going to run the next franchise has now been suspended for 2 years because of some recent political issues where they've got the numbers wrong and all that. But what's interesting is that First Great Western, they stuck their hand up and said, we want to quit the franchise early, so that rather than the next franchise being I'm not sure how many years it was, 10 years, something like that, but they stuck their hands up and said, we want longer then the amount of time the government wants the franchise to be when it went to negotiate a much longer franchise. So they effectively played Russian roulette. They said, give us the longer franchise or we're off. That's all. It was a high risk strategy. No guarantee that they would get to this longer franchise that they were asking for. They needed to convince the government to give them the longer franchise, and so they effectively said, they sort of said, we resign, and if you re-elect us back in, then we want more time to do what we want to do, that sort of thing. So bit of a high risk strategy. And now it's worked out that because of this recent cancellation of the franchise contests, it means that First Great Western have now been given an extra 2 years to run the franchise they currently hold. So rather than a new franchise being appointed now, someone other than First Great Western, in the worst case scenario, stealing the franchise off First Great Western, it means that First Great Western have effectively for free being given 2 of the extra franchises that they were effectively asking for when they voluntarily resigned from having the franchise in the first place. So of course they didn't know in advance that this was going to happen. They have been disadvantaged with the situation that has affected this franchise contests. There's something called the West Coast Main Line. They were given a franchise for that, but then when it was calculated that all the numbers were wrong, they then lost that franchise and went back provisionally to the previous assigned holder, Richard Branson's Virgin Railway Company. So First have been disadvantaged on the West Coast Main Line, but as I'm saying, they have effectively benefited greatly from what is happening with the Great Western line that runs from London Paddington through to Swansea. So quite fascinating. Some people say that First are not very good. Those of you watching this outside Britain, I must emphasise in case I confuse it. First is the franchise holder. Great Western is the route. But when First other than the Great Western route, they call this First Great Western. If they definitely had the West Coasters, that would be First West Coast. So I clarified for you the name of the company and the name of the route. It's easy for me to say First Great Western bidding to hold the West Coast line. That would be inaccurate. But yes, interesting. I think if you're not British, you won't find it interesting. But I hope that you found my comments about the possible central universe interesting. Do tell me what you think about the universe and also railway franchises here in the United Kingdom, if that floats your boat. Okay, until next time, it's bye for now. Bye bye.